Hey guys, and welcome to my review of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. This review concerns only the single player campaign because, quite honestly, I love the COD multiplayer and any aspect of it, and I simply don't think it's a good thing. Of course, this is my personal, very subjective view of things, but there you have it. I always thought that the Call of Duty multiplayer was something that was just slapped on the game because people expect a multiplayer, but yeah, let's not go too deep into that issue of mine. Let us just skip ahead to the important part, the campaign. I honestly think that Call of Duty has had more often than not good and engaging storylines, which of course often were way over the top, but still enjoyable. They feel a lot like Hollywood action movies, and you know there are plot holes and stuff that just doesn't make any sense, but you can forgive them for it because it moves the plot forward. And this of course also applies to Infinite Warfare. I like the general overtone of the story and how it progresses, and I'm happy with the overall setting and the path they choose for it. Now, I've seen a lot of complaints about the useless deaths and whatever, but I disagree. I think it's important in a story to have good ones die too. Not because I'm a sadist who like to see people die, no, not because such is life, such is reality. And as such, people shouldn't forget that in a struggle between two sides, there will be victims, guilty or innocent, on either side. In war, you can expect casualties. No, in war, you have to accept casualties. Now, if you think their deaths were silly or whatever, that is absolutely up to you. In some cases, I may even agree with you, but in the big picture of things, shit will happen and you know it. Now, on a side note, the game begins after the prelude in Geneva, where I actually live. And more precisely than that, the first couple of minutes where you fight your way through the streets in Geneva is exactly where I live. And no, it doesn't look like that at all. Actually, it looks like the location is physically exactly where I live, at the border of the lake, just adjacent to the jet d'eau. That's that big fountain that is in the lake. And I live just 200 meters away from it, so like really just close to next to it. I can see it from my house. It's just behind one building. But the buildings here, they are rather modern, like 20th century anyway, and it's flat. And the scene that you see in the game, it looks like the old city, which is a bit further away from here, which is on a little hill, so to say. So there you have little streets and old streets and this plaster stones and whatever. So it looks like they took a part of the city and moved it to another part of the city. But all in all, it looks fine. But like I said, I think that's an artistic choice, I guess, and as such, I won't criticize it. I just notice it because I live here, so I can. Also, as usual, it has top-notch voiceovers by some very talented people, including my all-time favorite actress in sci-fi, Miss Claudia Black. Oh, how I love her as an actress, of course, I'm married. Sadly, she only played a minor part, probably died by the most stupidest of reasons. Oh well, she will be missed. So, to sum this part up, I enjoyed the story and it kept me motivated throughout the game to keep moving forward and to actively want to reach the conclusion of this piece. And this is an important thing to me when it comes to video games or a movie, because if I'm not motivated, or worse, if I get bored playing or watching a game or movie, then there is something wrong with it, in my opinion. But Infinite Warfare kept me do it all and I enjoyed it mostly. Now to the gameplay. Now I like the space combat and I like that they use the 6-directional flight model instead of an aerial plane type of system, which at first you have to get used to it, that you can move in several directions equally and not just forward. But it's very enjoyable, I have to say. And while the space combat was very rudimentary, yes, it didn't bother me either, since it's more of an addition than anything else in my mind. I think it was needed to advance the plot, yes, but not the most crucial part either. And he is a fighter pilot, so I think he's a pilot. So him having to do stuff in his plane, it makes sense. So I'm fine with that. What I maybe didn't need, however, was making me press W for 3 seconds and then shift at the beginning of every mission, just so you can see the flight off cutscene afterwards. I mean, but that's just a waste of time if you ask me, but not a big deal either, so forget I said anything about it. It's not a negative, it's just a little note, side note. I also like that you could choose in what order or if at all, you will do the missions. But right away, a little tip, it is probably best to do all side missions before the main task, even more to check the rewards for them too. So to do them in an order that really helps you with the later missions. Because each mission rewards you with a perk that's a major stat that will be added to you permanently, which includes bonuses for faster health regeneration, better hipfire aim, faster aim downside, more protection against explosives, and so on. So I think there's a total of 12 or so perks, which help you survive your encounters better, and especially the main missions are so much easier with them. They of course also unlock a plethora of weapon and ship unlocks. There are of course once again an almost infinite, no pun intended, number of weapons and modules and whatnot. And to be honest, while being numerous, they're also mostly very useless. Now, I'm not saying they're useless to use, no, but they're useless to unlock. Because you find weapons in all sorts of variations by the hundreds in your missions. It almost seems as if every enemy wears a different weapon with a different loadout and with various models, sights and whatnot. It doesn't matter with what loadout you start out, because you will always certainly switch weapons throughout the mission on several occasions. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm just saying, when at the loadout selection screen, honestly just accept whatever Griff is recommending it to you and just go with it. Don't bother waste time changing anything, because you won't stick with it. Just a friendly tip, nothing else. Now back to the gameplay. At first the game almost bored me a bit, because of course it still is Call of Duty and not much has changed in the last 10 years of its gameplay since Modern Warfare, first of its name. It still is a glorified shooting gallery. Sorry to say, but it's true. The concept is still, you move forward, you stop, you kill everything, usual several waves, and then you go to the next checkpoint. There is little to no difference you can make actually, because unless you kill everything, you won't move forward, and you can't. I mean, the only choice you really have is how to kill them, either with a sniper rifle or with a pistol. But other than that, it doesn't matter. There is not much choice involved. There is no different path or nothing. You move the path they give you, you kill what's in front of you, and you move on, and that's it. There is no choice A or choice B or whatever. No. You just move forward, shoot, move forward, rinse and repeat. But now this is a very boring concept in itself, and that's why it's so important that there is a story that keeps you want to move on. Like I said before, Infinite Warfare did that, and I think it did a good job of it as well. So once I got my rhythm back, it becomes a lot more fluid and less stressed to fight off all those wacky enemies and inexisting AI. And yeah, that is still a thing in Call of Duty. The AI just doesn't exist. All there is a very, very straightforward and rudimentary script that lets the AI controlled entities move and fight. There doesn't seem to be any else-if statements or anything. It's basically just spawn, move to waypoint, shoot whatever is inside. And even that, it's not even that, it's working correctly sometimes. So the friendly AI still ignores your existence nearly all the time. I'm not talking when they talk to you, that's not AI, that's such a script that runs. But it's very noticeable by them bumping into you constantly and them totally ignoring you when they move from spot to spot. And even the enemy sometimes seems to ignore you a lot, which also becomes a bit awkward as you stand next to one and you are being totally ignored by it. Like, am I not worthy of your destruction? So yeah, that sadly didn't change at all since Call of Duty 4, but again, as long as the story keeps pushing you forward, it's something that you can ignore. It's like I think I used that sentence in Battlefield 1. It's probably the other way around here. This is a story that has shooting in it. It's not a shooter that has story in it. So the most important of the solo campaign is the story, and the shooting is just part that is added because, hey, we have to give the player to do something. Otherwise, it's just the movie. So yeah, as long as the story in this, I think in the campaign there has to be either side has to be there. Either the story is good and it keeps you moving forward, or the gameplay the shooting, the action, or whatever, is good, and that alone keeps you moving forward. But you have to have at least one of the both of two elements. If you have both, hey, perfect world. But yeah, okay. Now to the technical side of the game, and yeah, here we have some negatives, I guess. Let's put it this way: for a game that looks as it does, it runs a lot worse than it should. Now, I'm not saying it looks bad, because it certainly doesn't, but it looks noticeably less good than, for example, Battlefield 1 or Titanfall 2. That's just examples of games that came just out. It's nothing to do with EA or whatever. But both games run extremely well on even slower configurations. Now, Infinite Warfare did run fine for the most part, but often it also dipped into the low FPS parts, which made the game feel very sluggish and unresponsive. I mean, the game in optimal settings, I don't know what exactly that means, but optimal settings, the game for me jumped from anywhere from between 50 to 120, 130 FPS. And that's something you really want to avoid in the game, is to have the FPS jump 100% up and down. In a game, the perfect situation is if the FPS stays the same, and yes, you're gonna say VSync or G-Sync or FreeSync or whatever, Fast Sync, I don't know. Anyway, but VSync is usually a bad option, especially in FPS, because it makes the input, it gives a lot of input lag, which makes the game less responsive and more sluggish, even having a stable frame rate. Of course, there's less screen tearing, but that's just the way it is. But optimally, you want the game to be a stable FPS, whatever the FPS, but stable, and not having it moving up and down like crazy, like here. Because it seems like there's something in the engine which, when called upon, some part of the code or whatever, which slows down the game very noticeable. So yeah, I hope that gets fixed in a patch for anyone playing that in the future. Other than that, the game looks just fine. I mean, it looks good, but it's not over the top either. But it has the artwork was done very well, I think, and the overall tone worked well with the story and the setting. So yeah, there you have it. The campaign is a real joy to play, I have to say. And if it weren't for that $60 price tag, I would even recommend to buy it. But for now, all I can recommend is wait for a Steam sale or something, and when you can the game for like 20 or 30 bucks, then maybe think about buying it, because I think that's a fair price at that point. Just please don't buy it for the multiplayer, and I know I'm biased about it, but you will be disappointed. Trust me, while I didn't really play myself, because I don't like COD, but I spoke with a lot of people who like Call of Duty multiplayers, who play Call of Duty multiplayer, real-time friends, and on the internet and whatever. And the general consensus seems to be that it's really bad, and yeah, it's just not worth buying it just for that. So yeah. It's nothing like the single player, so just trust me, please. So yeah, but that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope I see you all next time. Cheers.